So let's do some comparative summary statistics as far as two categorical variables is concerned. We've just looked at taking a nominal categorical variable, looking at the different categories in that. We did that for resting ECG. We found that we had 3 unique values, and so we can subset one of our numerical variables for each one of those 3 categories, and we can do summary statistics comparing that same numerical variable between these 3 different groups. But what if I have 2 categorical variables? So let's choose angina, and so I'm going to go down to I1, shift control, shift command down arrow, command or control C to copy it. Let's make a brand new sheet, and I'm right there in A1. Let's go back to the home tab. I'm going to paste. This time this dialog opens up for me. I'm just going to do paste values, so I have all of those. Just going to double click between A and B to expand that, and let's just make it very easy for ourselves. Let's do the resting ECG again. So I'm going to go to resting ECG, that's G1, shift command down arrow, command or control C, see the marching ants, it's copied. I'm going to go to my brand new sheet, and right there in cell number B1, paste values, and there we go. So I have both of those copied here. And let's change this name of the sheet so that I can remember what my analysis was here. So that is, let's just call it angina and resting ECG. So I know what this was all about. So these are 2 categorical variables, and what I want to do is create a table of observed data, otherwise known as a contingency table, which will allow me eventually to do a chi-square test for independence, or Pearson's chi-square test, where I look at whether there's an association between these 2 variables. And it's 2 categorical variables, so what I'm going to do for my summary statistics here is I'm going to create a pivot table. So I'm just going to go to Insert, and I'm going to go to Pivot Table. Now let's select all the data. Now fortunately for me, it seems that it's selected both columns for me. I can see where the marching ants go, so I don't really have to change anything there, but you can just select all of your data. And now I'm going to go to Existing Data Sheet, which is where I want the results to be, my table to be in the sheet. I don't want it to be in any other sheet. And let's just select it there. You can put it where you want. I'm going to do E1. There we go. And I'm going to click OK. So what we can see now is we have both columns up there, exercise angina and resting ECG. Now you can drag either of these down. Let's take exercise angina. I'm just dragging it down to as far as the rows are concerned. And it gives me no and yes. It's the only 2 values it found as far as exercise-induced angina, and as far as that's a variable, that column is concerned. And I'm going to take resting ECG, and I'm going to drag that down to columns. So we've got the contingency table now. We've got the specific categories for both of our categorical variables as far as the rows and the columns are concerned. Of course, you can have it the other way around. There might be a specific case where you want something on the rows and you want something on the columns. We would typically put one of the variables that we see as our explanatory variable along the rows, and our outcome or disease variable, we want that along the columns. But for now, we can choose any one to be in the rows, any one to be in the columns. But now we want the actual values for these. So I'm going to take exercise angina again, and I'm going to drag it down to values. And there we go. If I click on the little I button, I just want to make sure that it is count. Yes, it is count. And there we go. We've got a contingency table. Let's increase the screen size a little bit so you can see a little bit better. There we go. So what do we see here? A table of observed values. So if I look at the 115 there, that would mean it is 115 subjects that had no for exercise angina, but had left ventricular hypertrophy as far as their ECG is concerned. If I look at 345, those were people with no exercise angina and normal for the ECG. So those 6 values there is because I have 2 categories for the one variable, 3 categories for the other. 2 times 3 is 6. I'm always going to have the 6 values. The values that you see on the outside, those are called the marginal frequencies. So if I look at the 188, there'll be 188 people with LVH, and that's what we saw when we did the univariate analysis. If I look at normal, there were 552 with normal. ST, there was 178. If I look at exercise angina, just no, there were 547 with no exercise angina and 371 with exercise angina for a total of 918. So that is brilliant. Summary statistics with Microsoft Excel.